Commander Zixtel stood on the bridge of the Harmony's edge and watched the human crew work. His 4 eyes moved from station to station as he studied these strange new allies. The Viridian Empire had fought many wars across the galaxy, but never alongside humans before. The Galactic Council had told him these creatures would be useful partners. They said humans were smart and could help with technology and planning. Zixtal wanted to see if this was true. The human captain was named Jake Morrison. He was tall, for his species, with short brown hair and calm blue eyes. Jake moved around the bridge with quiet confidence. When he spoke to his crew, his voice was steady and polite. Zixtal noticed that Jake never raised his voice or seemed angry. The human always said please and thank you to everyone. This seemed odd to Zixtal because most military commanders he knew were much louder and more demanding. Next to Jake stood Lieutenant Amy Foster. She was smaller than Jake with long red hair tied back in a neat style. Amy worked at the communications station and spoke with other ships in the fleet. Her voice was soft and clear when she talked to alien crews from different worlds. She knew many languages and could translate between species that had trouble understanding each other. Zixtal was impressed by how easily she switched from one language to another without making mistakes. Dr. Kevin Wright was the human science officer. He had gray hair and wore glasses that made his green eyes look bigger. Kevin spent most of his time studying data on his screens or talking quietly with other scientists. When Zixtal asked him questions about human technology, Kevin always gave detailed answers. The doctor seemed to know a lot about many different subjects. He was especially good at solving problems that other species found difficult. The human crew worked together in a way that seemed almost too perfect to Zixtal. They never argued or raised their voices at each other. When one person needed help, the others would assist without being asked. They shared information quickly and efficiently. Everything they did followed proper military procedures exactly. Zixtal had worked with many different alien species over his long career, but he had never seen a crew that was so disciplined and organized. What struck Zixtal most was how physically small and weak humans appeared compared to other galactic species. His own people, the Viridians, were much taller and stronger with thick chitinous shells that could stop most weapons. The Krellians had 6 arms and could lift heavy objects easily. The Zentari had natural armor and sharp claws. Humans looked soft and fragile by comparison. They had thin skin that seemed like it would tear easily, and only 2 arms that did not look very strong. Despite their physical weakness, humans had impressive technology. Their computers were faster than most other species used. Their weapons were precise and efficient. Their ships had advanced systems that could do many things at once. Jake Morrison showed Zixtal around the human sections of the ship. Everything was clean and well organized. The humans kept detailed records of everything they did. They had backup plans for every possible situation. During the first week of their patrol mission, Zixtal watched how humans handled different situations. When they encountered a damaged cargo ship, the humans immediately offered to help with repairs. Kevin Wright and his team worked with the alien engineers to fix the ship's engines. They shared their knowledge freely and did not ask for payment or favors in return. The grateful alien captain thanked them many times before continuing on his journey. When the fleet had to navigate through a dangerous asteroid field, Amy Foster coordinated with all the other ships. She made sure everyone knew the safest path to take. Her calm voice guided dozens of different alien crews through the rocky maze without any accidents. Jake Morrison made tactical suggestions to the fleet commander that helped the whole group move more efficiently. The humans seemed to naturally fall into supporting roles rather than trying to take charge. At night, during the quiet hours, Zixtal would walk through the ship's corridors. He often saw human crew members in their recreation areas. They would play strange games that involved moving pieces on boards or solving puzzles. Sometimes they would watch entertainment programs on their screens. Zixtal noticed that many of Their games and shows involved fighting or military strategy. When he asked Jake about this, the human captain just smiled and said his people enjoyed mental challenges and competition. The humans ate simple food that they prepared in efficient ways. They exercised regularly to stay in good physical condition. They kept regular sleep schedules and followed health protocols carefully. Everything about them seemed logical and well-planned. They waste nothing and always thought about the future. Zixtal began to think that humans were probably the most practical and sensible species he had ever worked with. After 2 weeks of patrol duty, Zixtal felt comfortable around the human crew. They had proven themselves to be reliable allies who followed orders and helped others. They seemed to have no interest in glory or personal gain. Jake Morrison and his people just wanted to do their jobs well and support the Galactic Alliance. Zixtal wrote positive reports about them to his superiors back on the Viridian homeworld. The Harmony's Edge continued its patrol route through the neutral zone between friendly space and the hostile Krex Dominion. The mission was supposed to be routine, with little chance of real danger. The mixed crew of humans-aliens worked together smoothly as they monitored space traffic and watched for any signs of enemy activity. Zixtal felt confident that these new human allies would be valuable partners for many years to come. 3 months had passed since Zixtal first met the human crew, and he had grown very comfortable with them. The joint fleet operations ran smoothly with humans, providing excellent support to all the other species. Commander Lisa Park had joined them 2 weeks ago as the senior human officer. She was a serious woman with short black hair and dark eyes that seemed to notice everything. Lisa had experience commanding large fleets, and her tactical knowledge impressed even the veteran alien. Commanders, Sergeant Ben Collins arrived with Lisa Park leading a squad of human Marines. Ben was a big man with broad shoulders and a friendly smile. His Marines were all polite and professional, just like the rest of the human crew. They followed orders perfectly and never caused trouble with other species. Ben often helped with security duties around the ship, and his squad trained regularly in the cargo bays. Zixtal watched them practice their combat drills and noted how precise and coordinated their movements were. Chief Engineer Matt Rodriguez was another new addition to the crew. He was a quiet man who spoke with a slight accent and had skilled hands that could fix almost anything. Matt worked closely with alien engineers from different species and always found ways to improve the ship's systems. He created new solutions for problems that had puzzled other technicians for years. His innovations made the entire fleet more efficient and reliable. During this peaceful period, Zixtal began to learn more about human culture and behavior. He often visited their recreation areas during off-duty hours to observe how they relaxed and entertained themselves. The humans had many different types of games and activities. Some played card games that required memory and strategy. Others worked on puzzles that challenged their problem-solving skills. Many humans enjoyed reading books about military history and famous battles from their homeworld. What puzzled Zixtal was their choice of entertainment programs. Humans seemed to love watching stories about wars and conflicts. They had shows about ancient warriors and modern soldiers. They created detailed simulations of historical battles and studied different fighting techniques. When Zixtal asked Jake Morrison about this, the captain laughed and said humans had always been fascinated by competition and challenges. He explained that his people enjoyed testing themselves against difficult problems. The humans also played physical games that involved running and jumping and throwing objects. They had team sports where groups competed against each other following complex rules. Even their individual exercises often looked like combat training to Zixtal. When he mentioned this to Amy Foster, she smiled and said humans needed physical activity to stay healthy and happy. She said competition helped them improve their skills and work better as teams. Dr. Kevin Wright often hosted educational sessions where he shared knowledge about human science and technology. Zixtal attended many of these meetings and learned fascinating things about human civilization. Wright explained how humans had developed their technology through centuries of warfare and exploration. He said conflict had forced his people to become creative and resourceful. They had learned to work together or die apart on their dangerous homeworld. During one of these sessions, Wright showed holographic images of Earth. Zixtal saw vast oceans, filled with deadly predators and continents covered with hostile environments. Humans had evolved on a world where almost everything tried to kill them. They had survived by becoming adaptable and intelligent. Wright said this background made humans good at solving problems under pressure and working as unified teams when facing threats. The fleet encountered a strange spatial anomaly while patrolling near the border with Krek's space. The anomaly was creating dangerous energy fields that threatened to damage any ship that came too close. Several alien science teams tried to find solutions, but made little progress. The anomaly was growing larger and would soon block an important shipping route used by civilian traders. Dr. Wright and his human science team studied the problem for 3 days. They worked with alien scientists from 5 different species, sharing data and testing theories. Wright seemed to have an intuitive understanding of how the anomaly worked. He suggested a solution that involved using multiple ships to create a controlled energy burst at specific coordinates. The plan was risky, because if the timing was wrong, the burst could destroy several vessels. Lisa Park coordinated the complex operation with calm efficiency. She positioned ships from different species at exact locations around the anomaly. Amy Foster managed communications between all the crews, making sure everyone understood their role. Matt Rodriguez modified the ship's energy systems to produce the precise frequencies needed for Wright's plan. Jake Morrison piloted one of the key vessels that had to fly dangerously close to the anomaly's edge. The operation succeeded perfectly. The controlled energy burst destabilized the anomaly and caused it to collapse safely. The shipping route was clear again and no ships were damaged. The alien commanders praised the human team for their innovative solution and precise execution. Zixtal felt proud to work alongside such capable allies. He sent another positive report to his superiors describing how humans had saved the mission. After the anomaly incident, Zixtal noticed something interesting about the humans. When they faced the dangerous situation, they had become very focused and serious. Their usual polite conversation disappeared, and they communicated with short, efficient phrases. They moved with purpose and seemed to anticipate each other's actions without speaking. It reminded Zixtal of how predators behaved when hunting together on his homeworld. But as soon as the crisis was over, the humans returned to their normal, friendly behavior. They celebrated their success modestly and thanked the alien crews for their cooperation. Jake Morrison bought drinks for everyone in the ship's lounge. Ben Collins told jokes that made other species laugh. Amy Foster played music from Earth that created a relaxed atmosphere. It was as if the serious, focused humans from the crisis had never existed. Zixtal began to wonder if there was more to humans than their calm, professional exterior suggested. Sometimes he caught them exchanging quick glances that seemed to communicate complex ideas. Other times he noticed how they positioned themselves in rooms so they could watch all the exits. Their questions about ship security and weapon systems seemed very detailed for a support species. But these observations did not worry Zixtal. The humans had proven themselves to be trustworthy allies who helped others and followed galactic law. They seemed genuinely committed to peace and cooperation between species. Whatever hidden depths they might have were probably just remnants of their difficult evolutionary past. Zixtal decided he was overthinking things and should just appreciate having such reliable partners. The attack came without warning during what should have been a routine patrol near the disputed mining zone. Zixtal was reviewing supply reports on the bridge when Amy Foster suddenly tensed at her communication station. Her voice remained calm, but he could hear urgency underneath her words as she announced multiple hyperspace signatures appearing on long-range sensors. Within seconds, the peaceful star system erupted into chaos as dozens of Krek's warships materialized from hyperspace in perfect attack formation. General Carol Hayes had arrived just 2 days earlier to take command of the human fleet elements. She was an older woman with silver hair and steel-gray eyes that seemed to measure everything around her. Carol moved to the tactical station immediately as the red alert klaxons began wailing throughout the ship. Her voice cut through the noise as she began issuing orders to coordinate the defense of the mixed species fleet. Major Tony Martinez worked beside General Hayes, analyzing the enemy formation and strength. Tony was a lean man with quick hands, who could process tactical data faster than most computer systems. His fingers flew over the control panels as he fed information to the other ships in the fleet. The Krex had brought overwhelming force with heavy battleships and fast attack cruisers supported by swarms of fighter craft. Captain Susan Blake commanded the human destroyer Fierce Wind that was part of the escort squadron. Susan was a tough woman with short blonde hair who had served in border conflicts for many years. Her ship moved into defensive position alongside vessels from other species as the Krex fleet advanced toward the civilian mining stations scattered throughout the system. The first phase of the battle followed standard galactic warfare protocols. The mixed fleet formed defensive lines while calling for reinforcements from nearby systems. Zixtal watched as ships from different species coordinated their movements and weapons fire. The humans maintained their usual supportive role, providing sensor data and tactical analysis to the fleet commanders. Jake Morrison worked with alien captains to organize the most effective response to the Krex assault. For the first hour, the battle seemed manageable despite being outnumbered. The defending fleet had good positions among the asteroid fields and mining platforms. Their combined firepower was holding the Krex advance, while civilian ships evacuated workers and families from the threatened facilities. Zixtal felt confident that reinforcements would arrive before the situation became critical. Everything changed when the Krex targeted the civilian transport Golden Hope. The large passenger ship was carrying families from 5 different species, including children and elderly refugees who had been visiting the mining colony. The transport had no weapons and only basic shields for protection against space debris. It was clearly marked with peaceful symbols and was broadcasting civilian identification codes. The Krex battleship destroyer's Pride ignored all galactic conventions about protecting non-combatants. Its massive weapons fired concentrated beams that tore through the Golden Hope's weak defenses like paper. The transport ship exploded in a brilliant flash that lit up the entire battlefield. 300 innocent beings died in that moment, including dozens of younglings who had never seen war before. Zixtal felt his blood freeze as he witnessed the deliberate murder of civilians. Around him, the bridge became very quiet as the implications sank in. The Krex had crossed a line that even their aggressive species rarely violated. They had declared that this would not be a civilized conflict with rules and limits. This was going to be total war where nothing was sacred. The change in the humans was immediate and terrifying. Zixtal saw Jake Morrison's face transform from calm professionalism to something cold and deadly. The captain's blue eyes became like chips of ice as he stared at the debris field where innocent families had died moments before. When Jake spoke again, his voice carried a tone that made Zixtal's chitinous shell crawl with instinctive fear. General Hayes stepped forward, and her entire demeanor shifted like a switch had been thrown. The polite diplomatic officer disappeared and was replaced by something that seemed carved from stone and steel. When she began issuing new orders, her voice cut through the bridge like a blade. She was no longer asking for permission or coordinating with alien commanders. She was taking control and expecting immediate obedience. Amy Foster's fingers moved across her communications panel with mechanical precision as she transmitted new orders to every human ship in the fleet. Her soft, gentle voice was gone, replaced by crisp military efficiency that left no room for questions or delays. The tactical data she sent out was accompanied by targeting priorities and engagement rules that made Zixtal realize the humans had been planning for this scenario all along. Major Martinez began feeding tactical information to General Hayes. at an incredible rate. His analysis of Krek's ship positions and weaknesses was detailed and ruthless. He identified which enemy vessels to target first and which ones could be left for later. His recommendations focused on maximum enemy casualties, rather than just driving off the attack. The humans were no longer thinking about defense. They were planning total destruction. Captain Blake's voice came over the communications channel as she requested permission to begin aggressive maneuvers. Susan's destroyer had been holding back with the other escort ships, but now she wanted to take her vessel directly into the enemy formation. Her tactical plan involved ramming attacks and point-blank weapons fire that would guarantee heavy damage to her own ship. Zixtal realized that everything he thought he knew about humans had been completely wrong. They were not naturally peaceful. Support specialists who preferred to avoid conflict. They were apex predators who had been carefully controlling themselves around their allies. Their entertainment and war games were not just hobbies. They were constant training to maintain skills they hoped never to use. The human ships began moving with coordination and lethality that shocked both enemies and allies. Weapon systems that had never been mentioned in technical briefings suddenly emerged from hidden compartments. Defensive vessels revealed offensive capabilities that violated every assumption about human military doctrine. The polite, helpful engineers became tactical specialists who could calculate optimal firing solutions for maximum destruction. Ben Collins and his Marine squads prepared for boarding actions against enemy ships. The friendly sergeant who told jokes and helped with security duties was gone. In his place stood a warrior who moved with deadly purpose as he checked weapons and organized assault teams. His Marines responded to orders with grim efficiency that suggested they had been waiting for this moment. Zixtal watched in fascination and horror as the humans transformed from allies into something that belonged in the nightmare stories parents told their children. They fought with a level of violence and coordination that made other galactic species look like amateurs. The Kreks had awakened something that should have remained sleeping. What followed was unlike any battle Zixtal had ever witnessed in his long military career. The humans did not just fight back against the Kreks' assault. They transformed into something that seemed to come from the deepest nightmares of prey species across the galaxy. Their calm, measured voices became cold instruments of destruction as they coordinated attacks with surgical precision and ruthless efficiency. Jake Morrison took direct control of fleet operations without asking permission from the alien commanders. His orders came in rapid bursts of tactical language that left no room for hesitation or debate. Ships that had been fighting defensively suddenly received new targeting data and engagement protocols. The human captain identified weaknesses in Krek's formations that other species had missed and exploited them with devastating effectiveness. Amy Foster worked at her communications station with mechanical precision that seemed almost inhuman. Her voice had become completely emotionless as she calculated firing solutions that would maximize Krek's casualties while minimizing damage to Allied ships. She processed battlefield data faster than the tactical computers and fed targeting information to weapons officers across the mixed fleet. Every word she spoke resulted in enemy ships taking critical damage. The human destroyer Fierce Wind under Captain Susan Blake became the spearhead of a counterattack that defied all conventional military wisdom. Susan took her ship directly into the heart of the Krek's formation where she could engage multiple enemy vessels at close range. Her tactics were brilliant and suicidal at the same time. She used her ship's superior maneuverability to stay ahead of enemy targeting while delivering punishing salvos at point-blank range. Dr. Kevin Wright revealed capabilities that no one had suspected during the peaceful months of joint operations. The quiet scientist became a tactical genius who could predict Krek's movement patterns and identify optimal strike points on enemy vessels. His analysis of enemy ship designs allowed human gunners to target critical systems with devastating accuracy. Wright seemed to understand Krek psychology and anticipated their tactical decisions before they made them. Sergeant Ben Collins led, boarding parties that struck terror into Krek's crews who had never faced human ground combat tactics. Ben and his Marines used speed and violence to overwhelm enemy defenders who were physically stronger but lacked human coordination and adaptability. The Marines moved through enemy ships like deadly shadows, eliminating resistance with efficiency that made veteran Krek's warriors flee in panic. Chief Engineer Matt Rodriguez transformed human ships into weapons platforms that exceeded their original design specifications. Matt bypassed safety systems and pushed reactors beyond rated capacity to provide power for weapon systems that should not have existed. He coordinated with other human engineers to modify Allied ships, giving them enhanced firepower and defensive capabilities in the middle of combat. The human fleet revealed hidden weapon systems and capabilities that had never appeared in any technical documentation shared with Allied species. Defensive escort vessels deployed offensive missile arrays that could engage multiple targets simultaneously. Support ships activated energy weapons that rivaled the main guns of heavy battleships. Every human vessel proved to have capabilities far beyond what they had admitted to their allies. Major Tony Martinez coordinated these revelations with tactical brilliance that left alien observers struggling to understand what they were seeing. Tony directed the human fleet like a conductor leading an orchestra of destruction. Each ship played its part in a symphony of violence that systematically dismantled Krek's battle formations. His timing was perfect, as human vessels revealed new capabilities exactly when they would have maximum impact. General Carol Hayes orchestrated the entire campaign with cold strategic vision that prioritized enemy destruction over any other consideration. Carol did not just want to repel the Krek's attack. She intended to eliminate their ability to threaten civilians ever again. Her orders sent human ships deep into enemy formations to target command vessels and support craft. She wanted to cripple Krek's military capability in this sector permanently. The coordination between human forces was terrifying to observe. They seemed to communicate without speaking and anticipate each other's actions without planning. When one human ship was damaged, others immediately moved to support it while maintaining offensive pressure on enemy targets. They fought as a single organism with many deadly parts working toward total victory. Zix Tal watched Captain Blake's destroyer take massive damage from 3 Krek's heavy cruisers that had surrounded her ship. Susan's vessel was losing atmosphere and had fires burning throughout multiple decks. Her weapons were failing and her shields were almost gone. Any reasonable commander would have retreated to fight another day. Instead, Susan ordered her crew to evacuate to escape pods while she remained on the bridge. The fierce wind turned toward the largest Krek's battleship and accelerated to ramming speed. Susan Blake sat alone on her bridge as her destroyer crashed into the enemy vessel's command section. The impact destroyed both ships in a massive explosion that temporarily blinded sensors across the battlefield. The Krek's lost their fleet commander and their most powerful warship. Susan Blake died as she had lived with absolute dedication to protecting innocents. Other human ships began using similar desperate tactics when conventional weapons proved insufficient. They turned damaged vessels into kinetic weapons and used their own ships as shields to protect alien allies. The humans seemed to have no fear of death when innocent lives were at stake. They calculated acceptable losses with the same cold precision they used for everything else. The Krek's fleet began to break apart under the relentless human assault. Ships that had seemed confident at the start of the battle now tried to retreat toward the hyperspace jump points, but the humans had anticipated this and positioned vessels to cut off escape routes. General Hayes intended to ensure that no Krek's ship left the system to report what they had learned about human capabilities. Ben Collins and his boarding teams captured several enemy vessels intact by eliminating their crews with surgical precision. The Marines moved through Krek's ships like ghosts, taking control of critical systems, while enemy soldiers struggled to understand what was happening. Ben's tactics were so effective that some Krek's crews surrendered rather than face human ground. Assault teams, Amy Foster, intercepted Krek's communications and used their own tactical frequencies against them. She broadcast false orders that confused enemy formations and sent ships into ambush positions. Her understanding of Krek psychology allowed her to predict their responses and manipulate their decision-making process. The enemy fleet began fighting itself as much as the human forces. Zixtal realized that the humans had been studying every species they encountered, including their supposed allies. They understood alien psychology and tactical preferences better than those species understood themselves. The months of peaceful cooperation had been a learning experience that prepared humans for exactly this type of conflict. The battle ended with complete Krek's defeat, but the humans did not stop there. Admiral Jack Turner arrived with reinforcements just as the last enemy ships were trying to escape toward hyperspace. Jack was an older man with gray hair and calm, eyes that seemed to see everything. His fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation and immediately began pursuing the retreating Krek's vessels. The Admiral's orders were simple and terrifying in their implications. No enemy ship would be allowed to leave the system alive. What followed was not a battle, but a systematic hunt. Human ships spread out across the star system, tracking down every Krek's vessel that had participated in the attack on civilians. They used advanced sensors and tactical computers to locate ships hiding in asteroid fields and behind planetary bodies. The hunt continued for 6 hours until every enemy vessel had been destroyed or captured. Not one Krek's ship escaped to report what had happened. General Hayes coordinated with Admiral Turner to ensure complete destruction of Krek's military infrastructure in the sector. Human ships followed the retreating enemy forces back to their base installations and supply depots. They methodically destroyed everything that could support future military operations. Weapons factories and training facilities were reduced to scrap metal. Supply convoys were intercepted and eliminated. The humans wanted to ensure the Kreks could never again threaten innocent civilians in this region of space. Dr. Rachel Stone arrived with the reinforcement fleet as a human psychologist assigned to help other species process what they had witnessed. Rachel was a kind woman with brown hair and gentle eyes who seemed to understand the emotional trauma that alien allies were experiencing. She organized counseling sessions for crews who had watched their human companions transform into something completely different. During these sessions, Zixtal learned that other alien officers were struggling with the same questions that troubled him. They had all believed humans were peaceful support specialists who preferred cooperation over conflict. The revelation of human military capabilities had shattered their understanding of galactic power structures. Some species were now afraid of their human allies, while others felt betrayed by the deception. Dr. Stone explained that humans had not intended to deceive anyone about their nature. She said her people had learned through bitter experience that other species often reacted badly when they discovered human military capabilities. Many potential allies had rejected cooperation once they understood what humans were capable of doing. So humanity had adopted a policy of revealing their true nature only when absolutely necessary. Jake Morrison gradually returned to his previous calm professional demeanor, but Zixtal could never forget what he had seen. The human captain resumed his polite diplomatic behavior and began coordinating relief efforts for the surviving civilians. Jake worked with alien commanders to establish security patrols and ensure the shipping lanes remained safe. His voice was once again steady and measured as he issued routine orders. Amy Foster went back to her gentle communications work, but now Zixtal heard something different in her voice. There was an underlying strength that had always been there, but which he had not recognized before. When she spoke with alien crews, her words carried subtle authority that made others listen more carefully. She was still helpful and polite, but everyone now understood there were depths beneath her surface. The other human crew members also resumed their normal duties and behavior. Ben Collins returned to telling jokes and helping with security work. Matt Rodriguez continued solving engineering problems with innovative solutions. Dr. Wright went back to his quiet scientific research and educational sessions. On the surface, everything seemed exactly as it had been before the attack. But Zixtal could see the truth now that his eyes had been opened. The humans moved with controlled precision that spoke of constant readiness. They positioned themselves in rooms to watch exits and approached problems with tactical thinking. Their casual conversations often included references to military history and strategic concepts. Everything about them suggested barely contained capability held in check by iron discipline. When Zixtal finally worked up the courage to ask Jake Morrison about the transformation he had witnessed, the captain's response was simple and chilling. Jake looked at him with those calm blue eyes and said humans had told everyone they were allies. They had never claimed to be harmless. The distinction was important because it revealed the choice humans made every day to control their own nature. Jake explained that humans came from a world where everything tried to kill them, and survival required constant vigilance and adaptability. His people had learned to work together or die separately in the face of overwhelming threats. That background made them excellent allies who would fight to the death to protect those they cared about. But it also made them dangerous enemies who would pursue vengeance with relentless determination. The captain said humans preferred peace and cooperation because those approaches built the kind of civilization they wanted to live in. But when forced to choose between their ideals and protecting innocence, they would always choose to protect the innocent. The Kreks had made their choice when they murdered civilian families. The humans had simply responded in kind. Dr. Stone helped Zixtal understand that what he had witnessed was not humans revealing their true evil nature. Instead, he had seen them make a conscious decision to abandon restraint in favor of necessity. The cold efficiency and ruthless tactics were tools they hoped never to use, but kept ready for situations exactly like the Kreks attack. Their entertainment and war games were not bloodthirsty celebration, but constant training to maintain skills they prayed would remain unused. Admiral Turner met with all the alien commanders to discuss future cooperation and security arrangements. Jack's manner was friendly and professional as he outlined plans for joint patrols and mutual defense agreements. But his presence served as a reminder of what human friendship truly meant. They would stand beside their allies against any threat. But those who targeted innocent civilians would face consequences beyond imagination. Zixtal spent weeks writing his report to the Viridian High Command. He struggled with how to describe what he had learned about humanity without causing panic among his own people. The humans were perhaps the most dangerous species in the galaxy, but they had chosen to be protectors rather than conquerors. That choice made them invaluable allies and terrifying enemies, depending on which side of their moral line others chose to stand. In his final report, Zixtal recommended continued alliance with humanity, while noting the importance of never giving them cause for hostility. He described humans as sleeping predators who preferred to dream of peace but would wake with devastating fury if innocence were threatened. The other species in the galaxy had gained powerful protectors, but they had also learned that crossing certain lines would awaken something few civilizations could survive. The last entry in his report noted that Zixtal now understood why the Galactic Council had been so eager to ally with humans. It was not just about gaining access to their technology and tactical expertise. It was about ensuring that when humanity finally revealed its true capabilities, those weapons would be pointed away from peaceful civilizations rather than toward them.